The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Makers of Minnesota. My name is Stephanie Hansen, and I am here with Angela Gustafson from Gustola Granola. And I'm trying to think, Angela, where the first time I ran across your granola was. I think
Goodness, I don't recall.
Yeah, I think maybe you might have been sampling somewhere, but I love granola. And when I had it, I thought, oh, this is really good. And I just kind of filed it away in my brain because I think maybe it was at a farmer's market, and I didn't run across you again until I was at, I think, an event. And you reached out to me and you said, I have to get you some granola. I was like, yes, you do. Your granola, you know, people are weird about their granola. And first of all, it's such a competitive business. I can't wait to ask you about that.
Absolutely.
Your granola is really delicious. It's very nutty. It's got fruit. It's firm. It's not like sometimes when you're eating granola, you feel like you're eating kind of like oatmeal-y dirt. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So tell me about, how did you get started in making granola? Did you start like at a farmer's market? Because you're a mom.
I started at a farmer's market. So I am a mom. I've got 4 kids that are now teenagers.
Yep.
And I'm a runner. I run every morning. I run our boxer dog. And I was looking for a healthy, sustaining snack to kind of get me through crazy mornings.
Yeah.
And I tried a granola recipe. And I love to bake, by the way. I just think it carries a certain magic within a household. It makes the house smell great. People love it. And I tried this granola recipe, and I loved the ability to control what was going in and, you know, whether it's the nuts and the dried fruit, and it turned out pretty well. And so then I tried another recipe and another and just kind of kept playing around. And usually I'm a real recipe follower, but in this case, I ended up kind of taking the bits and pieces that I liked from each recipe and creating my own recipe. And our family loved it, and I started making it all the time, and then we started gifting it to other people and had enough people say, you know, you really ought to do something with this. It's really different. It tastes great. And so I decided to take it to a farmer's market.
So what do you think makes your granola different?
There are 3 key things that I think makes ours different. We use olive oil and maple syrup, as well as egg whites, which I'm not sure that I've seen a granola out on the shelves that has egg whites.
And what do you think that does to it? Does it make it drier?
It makes it crispier and crunchier.
That's what I love about it.
And it also serves as a binder. So it creates these great chunks and clusters.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go through a whole lot of traveling around in trucks and, you know, getting shoved onto shelves. And we'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That was really what drew in fans at the farmer's market, were the big chunks and clusters. People just love that.
So you are at farmers markets. I'm sure you're like making this, having your kids help you package it, and kind of it's a cottage industry. At what point did you go from, this is fun working at farmers markets, but I'm going to start packaging this?
Yeah, absolutely. So that first summer, I thought it would be fun. I went to school at Madison, University of Wisconsin, and have this great farmers market there.
Yeah, they
I've
do.
had a love for farmers markets ever since, plus being Peace Corps volunteers where there's a lot of open air markets. And so I just always thought it'd be kind of fun to be in a farmer's market. So I engaged the kids in the business, and which they loved, and it's right in our neighborhood. So we were at the Linden Hills Farmers Market. We did that the entire summer of 2013, and we got to the end of the summer, and people were saying, now where do we get it? And I was looking through all the rules and regulations, and I'm not allowed to sell it direct. I have to sell it through community events.
Right.
And because I was producing it out of my home, and it was like, I guess you can't get it, you know. And so I went to the Linden Hills Co-op, and I talked to their grocery manager, and I provided him samples and had a whole lot of questions for him. If I were to bring this to store shelves, what would you want to see? And he said, you know what, you figure all that out, and when you're ready, we'll be the first ones to put it on our shelves.
Which is really, our grocery and our farmers market people do a really great job, because a lot of people come to them with those same questions, but they're not in the business to like help us set up cottage industries, but they're very welcoming about new products and pointing out resources. Was that your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I owe all of this to the not all of it, but a lot of it to the Linden Hills Co-op. I mean, they just basically they said, we'll take it. You really ought to just bring this to us. And then we just kept growing from there. And they really got behind the product, too. Not only did they put it on their shelves, but they put us on end caps almost all summer without us having to reduce our price or anything. I mean, it's just unheard of support.
Sure. Yeah.
But that particular grocery manager was so supportive of it. And then it built this solid fan base. And then the Wedge was interested. And then other co-ops. And then Kowalski's was like, we want it. And
did you go right from your kitchen to a co-packer, or did you have a commercial kitchen in between there?
I had a commercial kitchen in between. So I went from producing it in my own kitchen in the summer of 2013 to City Food Studio in South Minneapolis. It's over by the Midtown Global Market, and I started there in June of 14. So, I took almost, 6 months off and then started producing it again in June. And I was there for 2 whole years before we went to a co-packer.
And you were producing how many days a month, do you think?
I was only producing, 2 days a week, 8 days a month, and cranking out as much as I could in that time. It's a shared, it's like you're reserving space, and, I could get in there pretty regularly 2 days a week.
And was it, once people tried it, they had the same reaction I did, and that sold itself?
Yeah, and there's still a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
I wish I were doing a better job with all the marketing and really pushing the product. But yeah, I think people try it, love it, and spread the word. And so it's a lot of that.
At this point, do you do a lot of sampling? I was really surprised when I found you in Hy-Vee in Eagan. I'd never been to a Hy-Vee before, and I walked in, and one of the first products I saw that was local was yours. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because I knew you were not huge.
Right,
and
not huge.
Yeah, and I was really impressed how many local products the Hy-Vee had there.
Yeah, they're wonderful. So I will tell you really quick. So the co-op started picking us up. That was first. And then Kowalski's was a great local kind of first multi-store grocer that picked us up. And Hy-Vee, I have a connection there. I actually, I went to high school in Rochester, Minnesota, and I worked at Hy-Vee when I was in high school.
Sure. And
so kind of early on with this, I thought, if I could ever get on the shelves of a Hy-Vee, that might be hitting the big goal there, right? And so I contacted corporate in Des Moines and sent them samples. And so in my mind, I still was in the craft pouches, that I hand labeled. I mean, it really looks, small and cottage, right? And not super professional. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why wouldn't they take this product? It's great, and I was pretty persistent. I told them that I worked there. Anyway, they gave me a chance up here. And then before long, it was in all of their stores. And that really put us over. Same with Kowalski, saying we wanted in all the stores. I just couldn't continue to supply. And so then that's when we moved to a co-packer.
And who helped you with your packaging? Because you have really nice packaging.
Thank you.
And it looks homemade, but not rinky-dink, I guess is.
Right. I love that term. So it's Jim Davis. I'll give him a shout out with MindSpark. I think he's an incredibly talented creative. And so I had lots of ideas as to what I wanted for the packaging, and he really pulled it together.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a lot of compliments on that. And I think packaging drives a lot of initial purchase.
Yeah.
So you can have this really great product, and it helps to have super packaging that, stands out to people that they like. And then, of course, you need to have great product inside for the repeat purchase.
Now, the versions of granola you have now are, tell me all your flavors.
Okay, so we have almond, coconut, cherry, and then we have...
That's my favorite.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
But, that's kind of, and honestly, so there's 4 different varieties, and for the stores that carry all 4, it's almost even sales. It's like 25% plus or minus a couple percentage points, which is really an unusual and kind of cool thing. But, so there's the almond one, and then there's pistachio, pumpkin seed, coconut, cherry. There's a one without dried fruit, which is cashew, pecan, almond. And then lastly, there's the hazelnut, walnut, blueberry, cranberry. So that's the one I think that and the pistachio takes people a little bit longer to try. It's a little more daring because they're kind of unique flavor combinations, but they're different enough. And I think still great that they end up being people's favorites as well.
And in terms of this being your business, how many hours a week do you think you're working at it now?
Oh, I'm not keeping track. I think that'd be really sad. I'm primarily, I'm a stay-at-home mom with my kids, and then every free minute that I can break away, I'm working on this. So
are you calling? Are you planning marketing? Are you doing events? What kind of activities do you find yourself doing most?
I wear all those hats. So I'm not producing the granola anymore, and I'm not distributing. I have some direct distribution responsibilities, but we have a local distributor here that's doing all of our distribution in the state of Minnesota. So they just work within the state, which is where we are. We're in about 175 plus stores right now in the state. And I, aside from that, it's building relationships. It's trying to do the marketing. It's all the rules and regulations and licensing.
Do you want to expand out of the state?
Absolutely.
So you're just like, this is like, you're going to take this thing. You're going to keep going.
We're going to go now.
This is college education material right
well,
here.
We'll see. Maybe someday. Certainly not now. But, it's I certainly didn't go into this with that plan.
Yeah.
I really just thought the farmers market was going to be this fun summer adventure to do.
I'm shocked
with
how
whatever
fast it's gone.
It's so I think it's a good product, and we really need to. I need to get better at all those different hats. Like social media, for example, is something that I think I know you love, and,
I do.
And there are a lot of people out there that are just really great at it, and I am not. I love marketing; that's my first love. But you get so busy and get bogged down in all the other details of the business that it's hard to step away. But I'm reading a book right now. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Jab, 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 Right Hook.
No,
It's
I'm going to write it down.
Gary Vaynerchuk, I think is the last name. But he is talking about all the do's and don'ts of social media, and I'm doing just about every don't in the book. It's like I don't even think I'm throwing a jab. It's really humbling, but someday I'll get to those right hooks. And that's all part of the challenge, too, is figuring out, when do you start getting help?
Yeah, and
for some of these pieces.
How many employees do you have right now?
I have none. It's me. And then, I can't really say that, right? Because somebody's making the product and somebody's distributing, but they're not, directly employed by me. And I have my marketing person, Jim, who's just great.
And you're doing all your books and
all the books.
Yeah,
yes,
managing those relationships with the salespeople.
So we're bringing in some consultants that are going to help us with sales, and we really need to come up with some great plans to broaden outside of the state of Minnesota and be ready to do that effectively.
Do you have like a personal advisory board?
No.
A lot of women that are self-made women will look to that as a way to help expand. I might encourage you to do that. They'll get like 3 to 5 people that they trust from different industries and form an advisory board and meet 4 times a year is usually. I think of that because I was thinking like Salsa Lisa, who we've interviewed on this podcast, might be a good person to support you in that environment.
I think that sounds like a terrific idea, and I should say I feel like I do have a lot of advisors. Like
with
food,
your distributor.
The small food business community in this market is so tight. And
I just interviewed someone else who said the same thing. They were like, I don't think I could have launched this business in a state not in Minnesota.
Yeah, we're all there for each other. It's like amazing. I can shoot out a quick email or text and I get an answer right back. I just have wonderful resources at my fingertips, but you still need more. So that advisory board is a good idea.
How do you feel about, I think granola seems like such a competitive industry. Is it?
It's incredibly competitive. And the more competitive it is, the lower the profit margins, right?
Yep.
And our margins that you get, as well as just fighting for shelf space. And I think, it's been great that we've been able to, within the state of Minnesota, to say we're local. But when we're not local anymore, when we try
what's
to
the
get
story?
into what's really going to be the hook? And the other challenge is that we sit at generally the highest price point on the shelf.
It's $8 a bag.
Yep, it's like generally $7.99 almost everywhere. I think all the Cub food stores might have it a little bit less expensive than that, but and I think that creates interest because people are like, well, why is it so expensive? And hopefully they turn it around and they look at the ingredient deck and they see our amazing list and it's a short list.
Yeah, I feel like because it's so nutty.
Right. There's nuts in olive oil is not cheap, and neither is maple syrup.
Yep.
And and we're using local maple syrup, which is great. That's a small farm in Wisconsin. So we have that piece, but again, as you start moving out of the state, will they? I don't want them to have to increase the price higher than $7.99, but then you start having all the transportation costs.
How much does sampling factor into this? I would think it'd be huge.
It is a huge thing, and I should do it a lot more of it. There's a lot of I've been trying some other things like being part of more events and again sampling that too, but also donating some product and sponsoring, and so it's been fun to kind of see what works. Sometimes I love that direct interaction with our customers in a store. That's what I really love about sampling, but you hit such a small subset of a store's customer base, right? So I do think overall it's very worth it, but it certainly does take time and it's expensive. And
what's the biggest challenge when you lay in bed and think, oh, if I just did this better, what would this thing be?
I think it's just, maintaining that really, really high quality. I mean, so far, the producers that make it right now have done a really great job. And as we scale and produce more, I mean, that's so essential at our price point. And it's just, that's what we're about. I mean, we're a premium granola. It's all about that taste and texture and getting it just right. But it's also just, it's like, how do we grow well, and very planful and really have a good sales strategy and really get the word out to people. I mean, we're really trying to create awareness. I would love to make this as accessible as possible to anybody, anywhere in the country. And I guess.
Is it exciting or stressful?
Both. It's incredibly exciting. When I look back, I mean, I went to school for marketing.
Yeah.
And I've always been a little bit more on the creative side of things. And now I came out of corporate America in 10 years in finances and mutual funds and things like that. And to be able, I think when I was in college, I thought, it'd be so cool to be like in brand, management.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was you needed to have an MBA to do that. And I thought, well, I'll go get work experience first and then go back. Well, now I'm, essentially doing that.
Yeah, with your own brand.
Yeah, with my own brand. And so it's really great to have that creative freedom. But it's also, like I said, there's a lot of hats to wear, so it can be pretty stressful too. But it's it's been a really fun ride.
Can you think of a mistake that you made that you were like, oh, I can't believe I did that? Something that maybe could help someone else down the line?
I wish that I did, and maybe that I'm being too cautious, right? Because I think it's better if you say, yeah, I really goofed on this, and maybe I'm not taking big enough risks. I mean, there's been some little funny things, like you might appreciate this one. When I was at the farmer's market, I had the label. It was like a circular, our logo is a circle. And so there was just the logo on the front of the bag, and then the back had the variety. It described which, whether it's the pistachio or the almond one. It was on the back of the bag. And then I took that to the Linden Hills Farmers Market, and they laid them all on the shelf. Well, then, of course, customers couldn't tell what variety it was.
Right.
It worked for me standing behind a table, but clearly not on a store shelf. So it's probably branding 101. And I missed that one, but
funny
kind of
thing
funny
to think about, and you can see how that would easily happen.
And I don't come from, the restaurant business or food business at all. I mean, that when I first started at City Food Studio, and I'm sure some of you out there have heard of Buddy's Nut Butter.
Yeah.
Or maybe, Tempeh Tantrum, Ryan Billig, and those two were in the kitchen, such close friends. We had such great times at City Food. But literally the second time I had my shift at City Food, I had flooded the kitchen, or part of the kitchen. I left the triple sinks running. I was multitasking and everything, and I went back and I forgot all about it, the water running.
Yeah.
And it's just cascading over the edge of the sinks like just a waterfall, and there's like a good inch standing. And I started to cry because and Andrew came out and he said, Ange, you might want to come in here. And I panicked. I'm like, and he said, Ange, don't worry about it. I mean, there's floor drains, we'll sweep it all in. But it was like a fish out of water, but you learn.
Yeah. And those are the times where you just fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of that, but big, I just can't think of any big goof ups yet.
All right. Well,
but I'm sure there will
impressed.
be some. Yeah, don't be.
Oh, come on. I love your product. Thank you for coming in today. We're talking with Angela Gustafson about Gustola Granola. You can find it on her website, gustolagranola.com. And we talked about some of the stores that you're in. If you're in 100 and some, it's a lot to be mentioning, but people can find you there. Tell me about your running. Are you running just for fun? Are you running marathons? What do you do?
No, I run just for fun and to run the energy out of our dog. So it's my one mental break. It's just my time. I get that 1 half an hour a day.
I used to be a runner, and I ran with my dog too. And I realized when I stopped running, and it was years after I stopped, probably 2, that I used that running to burn off all that anxiety energy that's sort of on the top level of my personality. And so I would burn that off, and then I would get to where everybody else is normally. But if I didn't have the way to burn that top off, I was very intense and could be almost manic about certain, I'd be at work just like, and I was a salesperson and I was just go, go, go. It's interesting how that running thread throughout your life kind of can just calm a lot of that anxiety and gives you time to think about business. And
I can certainly relate to that. And I think the best creative ideas come during those runs too. And then it's like a scramble of, okay, I have to remember that one. When I get home and write it down.
Now I've transferred it to walking, and I try to, just not even walk with headphones or anything, just like walk to think of things. And my husband's a writer, and he'll be like, oh, I had a great plot while I was walking today. And he'll tell me like the plot that I'm like, oh yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah.
So it's fun that you're able to keep up with the exercising too as being a business owner, because you want to have a balance, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's hard for people sometimes. So thank you for being here today and
so
telling us your
I'm
granola
honored.
story. Yeah,
Thank you.
been great talking to you. Thanks for being on Makers of Minnesota.
Thanks, Stephanie.